Welcome to the Back 9 Six-Pack with Mitch and Justin. Let's roll.
Hello and welcome to episode 54 of the Back 9 Six-Pack. My name is Mitch, joined as always by my esteemed colleague Justin. How we doing there, dude?
Well, we made it back from Chicago. Oh gosh, where do I start? I didn't pee for like 19 hours, something like that. Brutal drive back. Stinky car, all the things. But we're here. We're here after 1 week hiatus. So,
looking back, just the condition that you yourself were in, I'm impressed that you drove the whole way. Because honestly, everything that was pretty negative about the car ride revolved around your side of the car.
Yeah. It was my flu game for sure, driving back. I'm usually not good at that stuff. Like any trip, just the drive back, I just don't have any motivation to do anything, especially drive 5 hours or, a little over 4.5 hours or whatever it is. But we did make a cool pit stop. It eased me into the drive, I think. Stopping at Fair Oaks Farm, some 9:45 ice cream. So,
Yeah, we had no concept of time between losing the hour and just the weekend itself. So I think ice cream is appropriate at any moment on that trip.
Yes, exactly.
Speaking of, we took a week off last week. Shout out to everybody that actually reached out and was like, "Hey, did you guys do an episode?" Just to check and see. No, we did not. I was essentially on my deathbed come Monday evening. We just massive stomach bug ran through the whole house. Everybody, babysitters got it. Shout out to my mom and Susie's grandma. They both came down with it after watching the kids. Just a tough scene. I truly could not get out of bed. I basically texted you. I was like, dude, either no show or get a guest because I'm out. And then you didn't hear from me for like 8 hours.
Yeah. And then you tagged that and we were leaving that week, a couple days later for Chicago. Yeah, it just didn't work out. But I did have some people reach out to me like, are you guys good? Where did I miss the episode coming out or whatever? Because that was only the second week we've missed. So, in a little over a year. So, shout out to those people that are just worried for our well-being. So,
for sure. Which, if you're one of those people and you've not subscribed, rate, review the show, shame on you. Show us some love. Do that. That would be awesome. Follow us on social media at Back9Sixpack. There's no real way to recap this weekend. It was awesome. 4 days in Chicago with the boys. Got to play some golf, which we'll talk a little more about in a minute. The Wrigley rooftop, just unbelievable.
The only thing I can say about this is I used to be perplexed about running into Cubs fans in Cincinnati. It's oh, are you from Chicago? No. Well, how are you a Cubs fan, right? But you I can understand if you didn't have a fandom going into a game at Wrigley, how you could almost instantly become a Cubs fan. Truly makes a lot of sense now. That's kind of my takeaway. I don't know how I'm going to watch a baseball game from not a rooftop the next time I go to a baseball game, but I guess we're just going to have to, bum it down with the peasants and the real seats. So,
yeah, a couple things. One, obviously having the all you can eat and drink available to you while you're up there is incredible. And we had just picture perfect, could not dial it up better weather. It was 72 and sunny with a nice breeze. Just incredible.
Yeah, and the food was sometimes you all you can eat. You're gonna get the bottom of the barrel stuff. You're not gonna have a lot available. Probably some crappy nachos and stuff. The food was phenomenal. And then they had a whole cooler of ice cream, which was just getting demolished by our entire crew. I think I had 4 bomb pops myself, give or take. A couple Twix bars. So we got our money's worth, I think. I truly believe we got our money's worth for the all you can eat seats.
We did. And look, I've only been to, 2 major league stadiums at this point, Wrigley and Great American Ballpark here in Cincinnati. Nothing against the scene in Cincinnati here. It's pretty good, but Wrigleyville on its own is just insane. It is truly a baseball, little town within a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And there is just anything and everything that you want to get into is right there. I mean, they've really like built that area up and done everything around the experience right.
Oh, that's what I was not aware of. You know, like I knew Wrigley, just like Fenway, is kind of like in a neighborhood. That's it's just how those older stadiums were built. But I had no idea the extent of like Wrigleyville and like all the different stuff you could do around there. Heck, we found a golf shop, Cubby Bear Golf, and by the way, coolest logo in the world. If you don't know what it is, look it up. Do yourself a favor. Even if you're not a Cubs fan, it is a high class, high quality golf logo.
Yeah, essentially a bear just carrying a set of clubs, but yeah, it's one of those, kind of minimalistic logos. It's sick. It was cool.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, it truly was an experience. I felt like it was an experience of a lifetime. When I was telling my wife, it's like, what, how was Friday? How was Saturday? I was like, truly Saturday rooftop is like going to be a core memory. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something you're never going to forget. Like, I will never forget it. And we're not even talked about the people we got to take pictures for us from left field, by the way.
Yeah, no, we were just like yelling down. Oh.
I had a guy from Milwaukee text me this morning, was like, hey, shout out to you guys for taking this picture. And I was like, hey, we kind of traded services there, but, and then I sent him a Go Pack Go. So it was really cool. That's how you know people are like having a good time, and it doesn't matter what part of the stadium you're in, is like, and their team lost, right? So like, but they were enjoying their experience because they took pictures for us, which turned out freaking awesome, by the way. But so did theirs. So I thought that was pretty cool as well.
Well, this begs a question. Last 2 weeks ago, I guess when we talked, we kind of listed our ingredients for an epic guys trip. Excuse me. One of those being, you had mentioned there's always a moment where you look around and everybody's just vibing. And you're like, this is the peak moment, right? Like, that's the moment of the trip. Do you have you decided on what the peak moment of this trip was?
Yeah, it had to be dinner Friday night.
Oh, okay.
We had some good golf conversation going down on our side of the table, and I just kind of looked around at one moment, and we even looked at each other, and we're like, I think we're coming up on that moment. Just everybody was in like a good mood. There was not a lot of, I don't know, like, I feel like when you have that big of a group, you're kind of babysitting, like, hey, we've got to be this place at this time. Like, we have a reservation. Like, there was none of that going on. But that definitely sitting at that table. And look, I going into the trip, I think I knew like 6, maybe 7 of the 12, we ended up having 12 on the trip, 12 guys. Like, I didn't know everybody. And I feel like when I left, I like knew everybody at that point. So, and I think that is maybe a lost recipe for a great trip, is like if you have people that don't know each other kind of leave and go like, oh, like, I know that guy now. So that was mine. What about you?
We definitely were sitting next to each other, and I kind of nudged, it was like, I think we're approaching, like we're about to hit the peak, and you're like, oh shit, it might be happening. You're right. So yeah, I respect that call. Underrated moment about that. Well, not really underrated, but we need to mention it. There was like a 40th birthday party in the room next to ours. And so they had to be able to go to the bathrooms and stuff, they had to keep going in and out of our room. So like anytime someone came in the room, we all would just start like clapping and just like hyping people up or whatever. And everybody fucking loved it. And it was just like the vibes through the roof.
Coolest thing. And the fact that like, I started feeling like people didn't even have to use the restroom. They just wanted to walk through our room to get cheered.
Yes.
Cheered for.
Yeah.
That 100% started happening. Yeah, that was an underrated moment on the trip, was just like, everybody's having a blast. We're getting the room next to us involved. Like, truly a great moment. Yeah, that was an underrated moment for sure.
Yeah. There were like, 30 dead espresso martinis and old fashions on the table. 3 bottles of wine, just everyone's got a belly full of seafood and steak, and yeah, it was just pumping up everybody walking through, and it was hilarious. Made for some really funny interactions. So
I will tell you this, like I don't want to say a bad experience, but I've been to bigger cities where people are just not nice, right? Like in your New York cities, like your Los Angeleses, like the vibes are a little different there. Chicago truly is like I could never live there just because I don't do traffic. Like I just don't. And parking, like hard parking situations, just not like I'm not good at those things. But everybody like I ran into that was not in our group felt like so nice, and that's how you knew it was like a good Midwest city. Um, Met a guy waiting for the bathroom. My guy Trevor was like, "Oh, you're here on a bachelor party. Like, you guys need to go to the Cubs game tomorrow." I'm like, "We are." And I was like, he was like, "But you need to sit rooftop." I'm like, "We are." Like, so he really like, and then he was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like it was like kind of one of those moments. But everybody was so nice for a big city because it's like sometimes you go to those big cities and it feels like everybody's a little miserable. But I didn't get that feeling at all from Chicago.
Yeah, and we stayed in the Lakeview area, so I think we had like a 30 minute walk to Wrigley. But like, so what was it? For Saturday? Yeah, Saturday morning, me, you, and Nick walked down, grabbed a coffee, got some breakfast, like in little, Main Strip, whatever, Lakeview. Sun was shining, perfect day. Coffee on the patio.
Yeah.
I mean, just started the day off perfect. So that, for me, another, smaller moment that didn't include the full group, but one that like was much needed at that moment.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think for me, honestly, I think it was the Cubs game. We're up there on the rooftop. We're making a cup snake with the people behind us. We're getting people in left field to take pictures of us. Nick and I hit a home run bet that my buddy, shout out Trevor, gave us live at the game. We hit a horse bet too, a race bet while we were there.
I was in on that. I was a little mad I wasn't in on the home run, but I feel like I got no pun intended after you mentioned the cup snake, but snaked out of that bet, by the way.
Yeah. Sorry about that. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, yelling at the people down in left field and like every single person just like excited about it, laughing, taking, trading pictures back and forth, like was, the weather was, like I said, the weather was perfect. It was awesome.
And the guys to our right, if you look at the pictures, they were kind of getting into it as well. Like,
yeah.
So,
it was so good. Yeah. So I think that for me was it. But, dinner was definitely a special moment. I can't fault you for taking that as a peak moment.
And like even the train ride back, like I thought was cool. Like it was just a cool way to get to and from dinner. Like, I don't know. Yeah. And I'm like a big, like cool dinner guy. Like I like those moments, like sitting around like a dimly lit room, maybe some candlelight going and, everybody's just kind of having their like own side conversations. That's more my thing. I mean, I love baseball, don't get me wrong, but that was like the most enjoyable moment for me, at least.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, we made it. Look, shout out Chandler and Guenth. A couple weeks away, get to celebrate them. Memorial Day weekend. That'll be a fantastic time, I'm sure. Much like this was. So now we rest.
Yeah. Rest and hydrate.
Right. Rest and hydrate. That's right. Yeah. Got the liquid death tonight. There's zero chance that I'm putting any more alcohol in my body today.
I feel that.
All right. I guess let's go ahead and move on to, it's been a while since you and I have both played the same new golf course.
Yeah.
Probably since the Louisville trip a few years back. And so I want to take a minute just to kind of like, why don't we just do a golf course review? Because we never do that because, most of our golf is played at our club, which, you know, is what it is. So we're going to do that. But two, the place we ended up playing was awesome. Like, legitimately might be the best public golf course that I've played. The more I think about it, I think it is.
It's up there. Yeah, I mean,
I haven't played many of the, like I haven't been to Pinehurst, I haven't been to Pebble, like, whatever. I haven't been to that level place. But in terms of like, this was, I mean, we paid $115 or whatever on a Friday in May. Not bad. Kind of like at that price point at, in a bigger city, like,
you're probably not going to get many better deals than that. I wouldn't assume. And we kind of did our research, right? So there really wasn't that many. And what we got for that $115 felt like plenty. You know what I mean? Like you got a lot of cool holes and that we're going to talk about. And yeah, I mean, for that price point in a big city, I don't think you can beat that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of shout outs going around on this podcast, but definitely a shout out to Nick for putting in the work on the golf research front. We had a full system, like a full rubric system. We're all grading courses and all this, trying to get to
How
the end. This
far
was the
away
one
they
that kind of
are.
stood out. Yeah, I mean, that was a big part of it. So we played the Preserve at Oak Meadows. It's in Addison, Illinois. It's kind of right next to O'Hare, actually. So that was one kind of wild thing about it. You and I talked about it, just like the sheer volume of planes coming and going.
Dude, like
was insane.
At every moment, there was like 8 planes in the air, maybe even 10. Like 4 or 5 landing, 4 or 5 taking off, and you could see everything that was happening. It was, to me, the noise wasn't a thing. Like, you heard them coming over, but after a couple holes, I kind of just got used to it. You know what I mean? As far as the noise.
Yeah, I was that way too. I really noticed it the first couple holes, to your point, and then I think it just becomes kind of white noise to you once you're there.
Yeah. Yeah, but the sheer volume of planes going in and out of O'Hare is just ridiculous. Like, it truly puts it in perspective, when you're watching them come and go from a golf course where you can see everything. So
yeah, so to your point about kind of the distance from where we were staying, so we were in Lakeview, like I mentioned. This was about an hour drive, kind of at that peak morning traffic time. So not too terrible, but pretty much anywhere that we would have tried to go within the area was farther away than that, really.
Yeah.
So in terms of location, that was a big plus for this one as well. Par 72, 7,015 yards from the tournament tees, which we did not play. They did not have those set up. So we played from the black tees, which was 66-31. I actually looked up and did a little research on the history of the course. I don't know if you read these notes yet or not, but
I did read your notes, but I got a little background from the guy in the clubhouse too, like how they'd done a renovation and stuff like that. So I had a little bit of what you put down.
Cool. If you have any extra, to go ahead and jump in then, but I'm going to run through these real quick. So this actually opened in 1923 as Elmhurst Country Club. It was designed by an architect named C.D. Wagstaff, which is a sick name.
That is such a sick architect name, by the way.
I tried to look up some of the other stuff he's done. Not really much on the resume. Kind of just like a middle north Midwest kind of courses, right? Like the Michigan, Illinois, Iowa area. So it was Elmhurst Country Club until 1985. During this time period, they actually hosted some pretty big events, including the 1941 Chicago Open, which Ben Hogan won. Gene Sarazen and Sam Snead were in the field, so pretty interesting. But in 1985, it was acquired by the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County. So it's actually why it's called the preserve. It's in a nature preserve area.
And that makes a lot of sense, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Which, honestly, if you go look at the pictures of it, if for anyone who's not heard of this place or whatever, go check it out. It just looks really cool. Yeah. There's a ton of like wetlands, and they kind of like they restored a lot of that and redid some of the creek beds. There's a big creek that kind of runs through the whole property that you kind of get a glimpse of throughout. And yeah, it was really cool. So from 1986 to 2015, it was open to the public as Oak Meadows Golf Course. And then at that time, they started on a $17 million renovation. And so they, quote unquote, reinvented it as the preserve at Oak Meadows in 2017. And one of the main architect on that was Greg Martin, who I think he was a member of like the American Society of Golf Course Architects or whatever. So there's like that society that they do a lot of these types of renovations across the country at public courses, essentially. But I looked up this guy's website, and the like main quote on it was sick. He said, "Golf is about golfers and the simple interaction of man and nature. Our goal is to make that interaction remarkable." I was like, hell yeah, when I read that.
I mean, that pretty much explains this course. It's almost to a T. I don't think it gets much better than that. And part of my favorite part of the course was, we'll get into like the actual condition of the course, which was phenomenal. But my favorite part of the course, and what I like about any course I play that is like this, is like you could sit on the back of the back of the clubhouse and see the whole property. Like you could see, like after you play, you could see every single hole that you played, and I love that. And that is kind of leads to that, right? Like you can kind of see the whole nature of the course from the back of the clubhouse, which was awesome.
Yeah, that's a really underrated point. Like so much public golf, especially nicer public golf, you end up playing is like kind of either weaving through or
Yep.
around housing developments and stuff, or it's part of a housing development. And so like anytime you get to a course where you can sit there and, like you said, just kind of see everything around you and layer in the fact that it's on a nature preserve. So there's like, there's like herons, there's all kinds of other bird and wildlife around, and, just kind of outside of the plane noise, which that is what it is. Kind of a peaceful setting, really.
Yeah, it was.
So you mentioned new clubhouse and a restaurant also there. So that setup was immaculate.
Phenomenal.
Great back porch overlooking everything. Inside bar was sick. Yeah, brand new facilities all around. Just really, really cool. Also, they hosted the 2018 U.S. Amateur Qualifier. And this course is currently number 7 on Golf Week's best public courses in Illinois list. So, all of this to say, we really freaking enjoyed this place.
I loved it, dude. It was I didn't play well, but there were times when I wasn't playing well. I was like, this is a pretty cool course though. Like, even though I'm not hitting the ball the way I want to, it kind of calmed me at times to kind of sit back and look at everything. So, yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah, it's hard for me to, when you're playing around like that and, you're coming off of that first night in on a bachelor trip, it's kind of hard for me to like really piece together the holes in my head and like actually break them down. But I did have one note down. We talked about this while we were out there. So an underrated part about courses for me is like par 3 variety.
Yes.
And especially if you have like good mid-length or short par 3s,
mm-hmm.
They're some of the funnest holes in golf. And this place had that. It was not like, oh, here's, 4 par 3s that are 190 to 220 yards and you're going to get beat up. There was an excellent variety with really cool green complexes to go with them. So it wasn't like, oh, here's a short par 3, hit a wedge and do your 2-putt and move on. It was like, no, you better be on the right tier. There's a good chance you're going to be putting for a while.
So I thought about that, and I did not hit the same club on one of the par 3s. So, like, I hit different clubs on every single par 3 we played.
Yep.
And it went from everything from a 4-iron down to an 8-iron. I mean, that's what I hit. So that's a pretty good variety. And then the shorter one had a hell of a green, right? Like, you had that big mound in the middle. I think it played about 160 yards or 158 yards or whatever. And it had some protection with, hey, we're going to give you an 8-iron, but you have to be on the right tier and things like that. So, yeah, that was an underrated part of that course was the par 3 variety. But I don't think it can be overstated just how unbelievably good their greens were for a public golf course.
I might have buried the lead on that one.
Yeah, I've got to bring it up because for a public golf course that you'd assume gets a decent amount of play, the greens were smooth and fast, and people fixed their ball marks. So at least it felt that way. The greens were incredible for a public golf course. Some of the best I've ever played.
Truly. It had like poured there the night before. Like we were cart path only because of how wet it was out there. And the greens, like maybe the first couple holes were soft or a little wet, but after that, I mean, those things got fast.
Yeah. Our last 7, 8 holes, they were cooking. I mean, sun came out, kind of got a lot of that moisture off, like that top moisture off the ground, and they started to really, really roll out. So
yeah, I don't know what the grass type was either, but I was telling Nick during the round, I was like, I don't remember the last time I played a course where you could see the grain like this outside of Florida. Like it was crazy to me how well you could see. The downhill looks so shiny and slick, and then the uphill, you could really tell. You could see the dark and the light and the variation. So it was really cool. It made like putting and chipping fun.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And you could hit a bunch of different shots, putting, chipping. Like there was a lot, like because the greens were rolling so well. Like some that I would normally chip that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna putt this. Like it's, I feel like I can just get it on the green. It's gonna do the rest of the work for me. So yeah, a lot of variety in short game when you get greens rolling that well.
Do you have any holes that stood out to you that you can remember?
Oh, I mean, my favorite hole, just from a sheer like scene and setup of the hole, it had to be 16. I mean, had the river running down the side. Wasn't an overly long hole, but you could kind of either lay back. You could, if you could carry it about 280, you could, 275. You could carry that left bunker or right bunker, kind of get it up closer to the green. Thought it had a pretty good green for a shorter hole. Like I didn't think it was like super easy. But the scenery tagged with like the setup of the hole, I thought that was by far my favorite hole, I think.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I instantly was mad because I tried to do the smart thing and hit 3-wood and just basically topped it right into the wetland. So my vision's clouded on that hole a little bit by the double bogey. I mean, there were just so many. One, the par fives were kind of elite. The more I think about them, they like a couple of them. It felt like you had a real chance to get there on all of them, but you would have had to really take on some risk on like I think especially 2 of them. But yeah, they were just straight up well designed holes. Like they,
I thought they were fair risk reward. It wasn't like an impossible shot, but you also had to hit a pretty good shot, right? Like you couldn't like flail one, 25 yards right of where you're aiming and keep it in play. Like there was going to be water or one of the wetlands over there. Like you truly had to hit a good shot, not a great shot, a good shot to get there. But yeah, there definitely reward. I felt like another underrated part of the course is like I felt like good shots got rewarded and bad shots got punished. Like, and that's always like some courses like you'll hit good shots and it's like, oh, that ended up like crap. I don't think that ever happened. Like when you hit a good shot, you got rewarded. When you hit a bad one, you were in a wetland, you were in a fairway bunker. I thought their fairway bunkers were placed pretty well distance wise and where they were at on the holes. I thought they had really good placement on those. So that's all you can kind of ask for a golfer, right? Like if I hit a good shot, I'm going to get rewarded. And I think you did out there.
Yeah. And there was a good mix of long fours and short fours. So it didn't feel like you were playing the same hole on repeat.
Yep.
There wasn't just like a ton of, dog leg left or dog leg right. It was truly like a really good the routing just felt really, and that was another point too. You're not driving like crazy distances between holes or anything, right? It's a self-contained preserve. Tee boxes are all pretty much right next to each other, which another note, square tee boxes are elite.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, they just had this place dialed. It was manicured. I mean, they had aerated the tee boxes, but like you said, the greens were perfect. The fairways for being wet were honestly in really good shape too. The rough was at like actual grass. It wasn't like you were in like a field of clover out there. It was one of the times in golf where I felt like I got my money's worth for something that I paid for like that. When a lot of times you don't know what you're showing up to, and you can easily be disappointed. This one, it lived up to our hopes.
For sure.
I made a couple birdies out there. I was excited about that. Also, some triples and doubles, whatever. But it is what it is. It's still early in the golf season. Any holes that stood out to you that in terms of like performance on, right? I mean, I think you hit the green on a par. You hit a pretty nasty 3-wood on a par 5.
Yeah, I think that was our second par 5 on the front, which was I think like
it was hole 5.
5 was a 5. Okay, yeah, I hit a pretty good drive, and I hit a really good 3-wood, right? But there was some trouble. You had a bunch of bunkers up by the green, so if you kind of hit it left or right, like barely left or right, you were, in a bunker, and then there was woods right, heather left. So, yeah, that was that shot. That was one of the shots that I was pretty happy about. And then, man, I ended up missing the birdie putt, but I had like a 60-yard bunker shot or like a 50-yard bunker shot on our last par 5 of the day. That was like I looked at Ryan and I was like, you could give me 100 more balls and I'd probably be able to do it like maybe one more time. Like it was truly an elite shot, but then I missed the putt, so it didn't really matter. But I didn't have a lot of good shots out there that day. So
yeah. I remember walking up to the green and be like, dude, that was absolutely incredible. Like, you truly just being an athlete out there. You had like your one leg wasn't even in the bunker, just in a super touchy shot. I had like I think I had two kind of like that 40 to 50 yard bunker shot, and I just fucking stink, dude. I can't. It's so bad. Both of them I hit like halfway there to the hole, and they led to some bad scores. It was just yeah.
Well, and that's what I was kind of talking about with the bunkers, right? Like, there's not a lot of courses where you have those shots. Like, I feel like there was probably 10 holes out there where you could have a 35, 45, maybe 50-yard bunker shot on a regular basis, like pretty easily. So,
yeah, I got to say the one on hole 9 felt personal. I'm going to be honest. That hole was super long.
Yeah.
I think you lost your ball right. I hit it down the middle of the fairway, but I still had like 200 something in, and the wind's coming in. And I just kind of, there's water left, and then that bunker is positioned right there about 40 yards short of the green, so you don't really have like visually it messed with you, right? Like, it was like, this looks like such a narrow space to hit this ball in. And you're like, I'm 200 yards out, so I better hit this good. I did not hit it good and left it in that bunker, and it led to a triple. So yeah, it was tough. That's a really good call. I hadn't thought about how perfectly placed those some of those shorter fairway bunkers were.
Yeah, yeah, they truly were.
Yeah,
well,
man,
I could go on for days. I could go on for days about this golf course. There were so many cool things about it.
Yeah, so yeah, if you're ever in the Chicago area, you're looking for a place to play, highly recommend the Preserve at Oak Meadows. Go check it out. It's definitely worth, if you got a little bit of a drive or whatever, if you're there on business and just hanging out in Chicago, totally worth the stop to get out there. Well, from that golf, more of our own golf, one league night is back. I know you played last week. I'm excited to play this week.
Yeah, I'm sad.
We've got what?
I'm sad. I'm not playing this week. I'm so sad, but it happens. It happens sometimes. But yeah, it looked like weather was going to be iffy last week. It ended up being a perfect night. Unfortunately, I didn't get to hang out and like talk to people, but it was a good first night of league. I don't think there was any skins out, at least individual ones, but because we all came in, it's like, oh, I birdied this hole. It's like, so did I. It's like, well, that one's gone. And it kind of just narrowed down. It's like, I don't think there's any holes left other than like the long par 3-5. And it was like the chances of a gross birdie on that those don't happen often on that hole. So, but hopefully the weather holds off this week. It's not looking great this week for Wednesday Night League, but hopefully you never know. So,
I mean, I checked it. I haven't checked it lately, but earlier it looked like it was going to be like the one clear and sunny day of the week. So we'll see. Who knows?
Okay. Well,
I will say I'm excited about league in general because I don't have any evidence of this, but just on the rounds that I have played, I feel like I'm making more birdies this year already than I did last year. So
it's a good problem.
Hopefully that translates to some skins finally for me this year. I feel like every time I made a birdie last year, it was just like automatic. Yep, that's going to get canceled, even when it was like on a difficult hole. Like, yeah, someone else got that one. But you're back. Tournament golf grind is starting up here for you.
Yeah.
Coming off of this weekend, not the best round on Friday at the Preserve. How do we feel going to the Clovernook Open? You sent us a text the other day. I don't want to out you or anything, but you were like, boys, I might be a little out of my league here. Just looking through the field.
Now I get to see the guys I'm playing with for 2 days. The one guy won the Ohio Open last year, which, for those that don't know, it's a pretty loaded professional tournament. Like, there's a lot of the guys that are playing on like the mini tours and things that are real, like, phenomenal golfers. So it's not like he's beating a field of like a bunch of teaching pros or anything like that. No offense to teaching pros, but like, these are guys that are golfing for a living. Like, paycheck to paycheck is every tournament. And, as we find out every year, there's thousands and thousands of guys out there that are one break away from being on the PGA Tour. I mean, this is what that field is built out of. And like I said, the one guy won the Ohio Open last year with a final round 65. So that's not bad. the other guy I'm playing with, he's a Division I golfer, right? So, and then there's a ton of PGA Tour starts in the field. A current member of the Champions Tour is in the field. So yeah, I feel better after hitting balls this evening. Like I found a swing thought that it really felt like it started working. My putting, as crazy as it sounds, has been a pretty good part of my game this year, and it's probably been the best part of my game, honestly. Just really good speed on my putts, which is not normal. And it's like I feel like if I can just give myself some chances, like things could start to fall. But my goal is to make the cut. Like, look, I know I'm not winning this thing. Like these are guys. It's funny. I went over to Miles of Golf today to hit range balls, and that was one of the ranges because the course doesn't have a great range, but especially they were closed on Monday. I saw a lot of guys. I'm like, they're for sure playing this week, and it was a stripe show on the range. Like I'm hearing noises. I'm like, my ball doesn't sound like that. My ball doesn't sound like because this is their guys' jobs, right? I'm coming like out of the office. I'm trying to stretch for like 10 minutes. I'm like, I got to be out of here in 45 minutes. Like, so I know I'm not going to win, but if I can make the cut, I feel like that would be a gigantic accomplishment. So. There's really not much else to say other than that. So,
I'm proud of you for doing it. Like, get out there, put yourself up against some stiff competition and just see where it shakes out, right? Like that's, you want the ball. That's what you got. You got the ball. Now go make some shots.
Yeah, and I think it's just like get me outside my comfort zone, right? Like it's never a bad thing when you put yourself outside of a comfort zone to try to stretch your limits of like what you think you're capable of or even able to do, and I think putting yourself in a field of people that are what is a lot better than you, I think is never a bad thing, right? Regardless of the outcome. So
no, and plus like we talked about a couple weeks back, Clovernook's a place you've played many times, played well at many times, so
yep.
Go do it on a spot where you're familiar, and a lot of these people haven't seen the course, sometimes. So,
well, and that's my thinking, right? Like, I'm hitting balls next to this, and I'm going to call him a kid because he was probably like 24, and you hear the sound. Like that's what I say is when you get to the range for like a PGA Tour event or even a Corn Ferry or heck, go to a mini tour event. The ball off the club face sounds completely different for guys that are at that level. But I'm like, Clovernook is not about length, right? It's not. It's about ball placement and keeping yourself on the right side of the pin because they're going to have the greens, I'm assuming, rolling pretty fast. So there's some spots you can really get into on those greens that if they're rolling fast, like you might as well just put a 5 or a 6 down on the scorecard. Bogey, double bogey, because there's not a lot of 2 putts happening from some of those positions if you get out of position. So that's my thinking behind it, but that's kind of my mindset going into this week is like, let's just put our best out on the table and see what happens. So,
hell yeah. So this is Wednesday to Friday, right? Is that?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, Wednesday.
The cuts after
Thursday. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I wish you had a weekend round in there because we get out there, but back to the grind this week for us, We're
going to do it live.
We're going to do it live. All right, well, that's the Clovernook Open, and from there, we're going to head to the Wells Fargo Championship because guess what? Your boys are on a bit of a heater here. We're very back in the one and done.
Look, I feel like we did our best just being like, no episode. Like, let's just go with this guy. It just seems right. All right, cool. We might have to do that more often.
I was sitting here. I was sitting here Wednesday. You were wrapping up trying to get ready to go for the trip. I'm working from home because I'm still sick as shit. And I'm like, dude, we got to get a pick in. Like, fuck it. Like, what about Alex Noren? He's got good history. He's been playing good. And you're like, all right, I'm cool with it. And I was like, sweet. Our guy comes in third place. the two guys in front of him, a couple people, like literally a couple people picked them. So they had like the guy that came in second and the winner, Taylor Pendrith. But we did about as good as we could, and there was only 7% of the field on him. So we made up a ton of ground. Picked up a nice $655,000. Jumped up to 1,213th place, which puts us at 6,868,805. Leader still at 12.6 million, so we're a ways back of that, but we're only 700K outside of the money now after being like 6 million back at one point.
Yeah, yeah. It never hurts to get a win in a major. Couple good finishes. But I think what did Cantlay come in a couple weeks ago, because we didn't. He was like what, top 5, so that
he was
helped.
T3, so T3 from Cantlay helped. Yeah, I mean we're on a roll here, some top 5s plus a win in there. So on to another signature event here. I'm going the light research method again. I feel like this is a keep it simple week. I don't know if you've put too much thought into this, but I want to hit the top of the board.
That's what I'm thinking. You name your guy, and I bet we might have the same guy.
So I'm torn. I did not come with conviction on this one, so I'm willing to be coerced a bit. I don't want to. It's going to be the chalk pick probably. Wyndham won last year, and he's been beating up these signature events since they started them. I don't hate just taking Wyndham and just going.
That's what I was thinking, because I was like, man, we overthought the players, right? Well, no one wins that tournament two times in a row. It's like,
yeah,
I kept thinking back, and I was like, oh man, he's not going to win again. And it's like, well, I mean, like having confidence on a course, especially because he's not been playing like overly great, kind of since some of that stretch he had earlier on in the year. It's like there's probably not a better place for him to like get back to like an equilibrium of like getting back to a course where he played really well at last year. So yeah, that's who was the only person I wrote down. So
fuck it, we're gonna go Wyndham then. I think he came in. He did well at Heritage too, so he's still riding the form in these big events.
No, he did, but I'm just saying, like it seemed like he was like the only guy that could stick with Scotty. Kind of hit a rough patch there. Heritage kind of got him back, but I feel like this is going to be, if he's kind of rolling in the right direction, this is going to be a course that really gets him back on track. Having that, that history from last year.
My only other thoughts were either Xander or Rory, but I'm comfortable to save them for a major or something later in the year too. So
yeah, I'm good with that. No, that was the only guy I wrote down. I figured I had a feeling that you were going that direction, and I just kind of kept trying to not talk myself out of it. So
yeah, your boy, Wyndham Clark is the official one and done pick of the week for the back 9 6-pack. Hopefully he brings the juice for us. It'd be a good time.
Yeah, let's hope he gets up. He ups his game in the juice meter.
Yeah. All right, we are breezing through this show right now. Definitely can tell we're coming off of a bachelor party trip and need to get into bed. It's time to go to the patio, even though we don't really want to. Yeah. Sometimes, look, the patio calls you at all times. It doesn't care if you're hungover or not.
Nope.
But you got to go. You got to answer that call.
Oh.
I'm going to toss it to you. You go first.
You want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah.
We had a similar question to this, but I don't think it was asked this way, and that does matter. So you know what you did for your bachelor party.
Yeah,
I know what I did for mine. I was really young when I got married, so like I had like no money, right? Like I had like there was no like even thinking about going out of the city limits of Cincinnati. But anyway, so like if you could like redo your bachelor party, where would you go and what would you do? Because we've asked the question of like, what makes a good I remember when we were first kind of talking about it, and like where you should go and stuff like that, but we didn't ask it personally. Since we've both had bachelor parties, we're both married. Like if you could redo yours, would you redo it? And two, if you would, where would you go?
I think that I went to Fairfield Glade for mine. You were on that trip, which is kind of a golf focused town in Tennessee. For those that don't know, the golf part of it was great. The courses down there are really, really solid. And we played a ton of golf, which was awesome. Had some fun at the condos. The one downside of Fairfield Glade is it's almost like a retirement community. There's like not much to do outside of the golf. So, looking back, I probably would do it again. I think if I had, if it was like more money didn't matter as much or whatever, I probably would still pick something golf focused, but maybe like North Carolina, like hit up some of the courses in North Carolina, do that, possibly fly to Florida or whatever and, pick kind of a home base area and, go drive to a few courses throughout Florida or whatever. Probably would just do like basically an elevated version of what we ended up doing for mine would be probably my opinion. I'd even go up to Michigan, honestly. I haven't done like a golf trip to Michigan yet.
Yeah, a lot of good courses sick. Up there.
Especially if you're growing up in kind of that June time frame, right? Where it's like the weather is just primo at that time of year. So not like a crazy different answer, but I would say, I probably would do it just to pick an area that had a little more outside of just the golf, and, possibly some better, like the upper tier kind of courses, not just really solid courses.
Yeah. We were kind of, so like for my bachelor party, stayed in Cincinnati, we golfed. It was all one day, golf, cookout, hung out, one day. If I had to redo mine, I don't think of a better, like, that suits like what I love. Vegas kind of has everything, right? Like they've got some top tier golf courses. I love a good craps table, right? Like it just kind of has everything, and the golf out there is phenomenal, right? Like you can kind of just pick a course and it's not going to be terrible, right? I teetered between that, and then the only reason I kind of lean Vegas is because there's more to do, like other than golf. Like once you're done with golf, we could always be doing something. That's why I leaned to Vegas. My other like honorable mention was going to Bandon. Like if you got like a specific group of guys that are all golfers, which pretty much is our group, I don't know if there would be a better place to take a trip like that to go if money didn't matter, right? Because that's an expensive trip. But if it didn't matter, I don't think like with a golf centric group that there would be a better place to take it to.
Yeah, I totally agree. Bandon would be my top choice of like places to play in the U.S. I think that's the top of my list, but I think North Carolina is probably second there because you get Pinehurst and that whole area.
You can do Mid Pines and like even the non-Pinehurst courses. There's tons of those. So
yeah, but yeah, I'm with you. It would definitely be Bandon. Would be the top of that list. Sitting here thinking about this more, I've honestly the trip we just took was sweet, and I think a big part of it, to your point, was like just the variety of stuff you could do in a place, a massive city like Chicago, and then truly, I've highly underrated the fact of going to that Cubs game. Like, I could see something like if you go to a place like Louisville or Lexington while it's like a horse race weekend or whatever, play some golf a couple of the other days, go to the track for a full day, like having like a big kind of like anchor sporting event that's like a really cool experience to go to.
It's a good idea.
Would also be like something that I would definitely be interested in on the second go round.
Yeah, well, no, I was just thinking of like, Vegas. It's like if you go out right now, like you probably catch a playoff game, right? Like an NHL playoff game. And if you go out in the fall, you can catch a football game, right? So they don't have a baseball team, but they've got some options if you want to go to like a good sporting event. You go out there in March, they've got, conference tournament games and stuff like that. So wouldn't be a terrible, and I was kind of thinking of that when I thought of Vegas. I'm like, okay, you could still do so. Like you could be like, hey, we're not golfing this day. We're going to go to the NHL game that's there that night, and you could do that as well. Yeah. So that's kind of what I was thinking with the Vegas as well, like the Vegas setting.
For sure. No, that's a good question. Hadn't really thought about that outside of the one conversation we had when we were planning Guenth's trip.
Exactly.
All right. I've still got bachelor party on the brain as well.
Oh no.
Not that we were like incredibly hungover on this trip, but I don't think it's, we're not officially on the record yet on this podcast of what our hangover cure, like our go-to hangover cure is. So how do you treat your hangovers? That's my question.
First is a Diet Coke. I mean, it just has to be like something with some carbonation. That's my go-to anyway. But like, I did it on Friday when we went to golf. Like, I was like, stop and give me a Diet Coke, and then I ended up getting breakfast in there, like greasiest food. Give me all the breakfast meats, like maybe even like if I'm really feeling it, like a cheeseburger at 9:00 in the morning. I know it sounds outrageous, but you've got to get the grease in there. You got to get something to really fill the stomach, and a Diet Coke. Like it's just got to be a Diet Coke. Like there's that. That's my only go. After that, if we're running down on ideas, like just start pounding liquid IVs. That is really. I'm not a big aspirin guy. Like I don't know. I just never have taken it when I'm hungover. But like if the food doesn't work and the Diet Coke doesn't work, we just move on to liquid IVs. So, and if that doesn't work, then you'll find me dead in the gutter somewhere. Like I don't know what to tell you. So.
I think we're pretty similar here. So this doesn't have to be this specific brand or restaurant, but because we live in Cincinnati, La Rosa's is like a popular pizza chain here. My go-to hangover recovery food, is La Rosa's pizza with onion, green pepper, and bacon on it.
Oh my gosh.
Just grease that baby down. I've eaten a large one of those on my own during these situations in the past. And the go-to though is for the drink for me is Sprite, specifically Sprite Zero. Cut back the sugar a little bit.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, there's just something about like a clear pop. Like you said, the carbonation is so key. Like I don't know what it is about it, but it helps settle my stomach. You can get out a couple burps if you need to,
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't.
Just like, I just water.
I think the pop doesn't, like the pop or the soda type doesn't matter. It's just like getting that carbonation in your stomach is crucial. It truly is crucial, right? It really is.
Yeah, one thing that you always hear people reference is coffee for a hangover. No. If I'm like deathly hungover, I want nothing to do with coffee at all.
No,
and I love coffee. I'm a massive coffee drinker.
No, thank you. Like anti-coffee when I'm in that kind of shape. Just doesn't sit well in your stomach. It doesn't even matter if it's iced or hot. Like it just doesn't even taste good. I don't. Yeah, absolutely out on that. That would be a wild thing to cure a hangover with.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the first thing a lot of people want when they're hungover, and I just don't understand it. Even like I said, as a massive coffee drinker, I can't. Something about the like acidity, the taste. You want to put milk in it or some sweetener, and it's just like that doesn't sit well. No, I can't do it.
Yeah, that. I think that's like an older generation thing, and I think it was maybe like lack of different things to possibly start with. But yeah, I don't know anybody anymore that goes, you know what, like I want a hot coffee right now.
Yeah. Oh.
And even if you take it black, like no sugar, like you're kind of keeping all that, like that's even. I mean, that's like putting gasoline on a fire. You're begging for some sickness, stomach troubles, and all kinds of stuff. So,
what about let's see, where are you on the hair of the dog? Does that ever factor into the equation?
I think once you get to a certain age, I don't think that works anymore. I'm starting to find that out. I think at like 22,
it's like a short-term gain for a long-term loss.
Yeah, I think at like 9, like you're in college or maybe mid 20s, like that is like a given, right? Like this is gonna work. I think once you get north of 30, that does not work any longer. You're kicking the can down the road, And the more you do it, you're kicking the can even further down the road. And then you can't even see the can down the road anymore. Like, that's truly what that is when you get past 30. Like, it really is. So.
Oh. All right, last one here. So I've heard people talk about like cold showers or, cold cloths or, some kind of like that treatment. Have you ever tried that?
I've done the cold shower, and I'll say, like, I feel like if it's like summertime, like when it's getting warmer outside, I think that is a decent route to go. I will say this: I don't ever make my shower hot if I'm feeling that terrible. Like, that's just going to make me feel worse. So it's probably like at the absolute warmest, like a lukewarm water. But in the summer, I would definitely like a cold shower, like not super cold, but like colder shower would not. I've done that before. Yeah, I think that I don't think it like is the absolute cure to it, but I've it's helped. You know what I mean? Like the couple times that I've done it. So have you done that? I feel like you do that every time. You're kind of a psycho, but
no. I did accidentally this weekend. I mean, our Airbnb, I don't know if you were in there when someone else was trying to take a shower, but that shit would go, like the hot water would just cut out on you and you just get blasted with ice cold water. It happened to me and I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to lean into this. We're going to go. And it was a true like wake up shock to the system moment. Like it was that cold. So I could see like, the potential, maybe a little keep the swelling down, wake you up out of a bit of a haze kind of thing. Like, might have some benefits to it. I don't think I would long term do it, but
you might not be wrong there. A second thing on our Airbnb water, the millimeters, and like maybe even smaller than a millimeter, the millimeters between the Devil's Butt Crack hot and like I'm swimming with the whales in Antarctica was so small. Like it was either like, do I want to be living with the devil today, or do I want to be swimming in the north, the Pacific Ocean in the Northeast in December? Like it truly was so slight of a margin for error when dealing with that shower this weekend.
Yeah, you had to really dial in on the pre pull of the the valve.
Yeah.
You had to make sure you were dialed or else you were in trouble.
Oh, so great.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, again, we can end it there. That again, shout out to everybody on the trip. It was a blast, especially Matt and Wade doing a lot of the planning. Guenth for inviting all of us. It'll be a great wedding in a few weeks. And yeah, that's like you said, there's memories from that trip that will truly be for a lifetime. So
yeah,
couldn't ask for more.
Oh yeah. Like I gotta give my guys, Zach and Parker. I did not know them at all. I talked to them a lot. I slept with Parker the last night on the blow up mattress. Like shout out, I slept with Zach. Excuse me. Shout out to him for dealing with that. Like truly a man's man for putting up with that, and then not like making me go away. Like shout out to him for that. And yeah, it's such a good group of guys, and like I said, I've got more friends now. So
before we get out of here, you got to tell what happened overnight when you were laying there with Zach.
So I woke up and I was like, oh dear God, please tell me I'm in the right house. Like I slept walk up there and I had no idea. And I woke up and I'm like, I'm not in my room. Like, where am I at? Like, for all I know, I could have like slept walk out onto the street or whatever. And I woke up and I was like, I didn't know where, like, I was looking, I'm like, this is not my room. Like, where am I at? And I just woke up and was like, please tell me I'm in the right house. Zach rolls over. He goes, you're good, bud. And I was like, okay, awesome. Like, and I could trust his opinion too. Like, it's like, I knew his voice at that time and I'm like, okay, I can trust him that I'm in the right place. So.
Oh man, so good. Unreal. All right. Well, on that note, If you're still here, please subscribe, rate, and review the show, and follow us on social media at Back9Sixpack. Also, hit us up. We still have hats left if you're, summer restock time here right before golf season. Still got the Patio Beers hats. Still got some of the white 9 emblem ones. We're going to start looking into some potential merch options here soon. I think it's time to start selling more.
Yeah, now that we're back from our trip and we got a little more time, I think it's time to start rolling some new stuff out here.
Awesome. All right, well, until next time, cheers.
See ya. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Back 9 Six-Pack. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Back 9 Six-Pack for all your content needs. We'll see you guys next week. Cheers.